The Cursed Lens. When Michael inherited his wealthy uncle's estate, he expected to find valuable antiques and rare collectibles. What he didn't expect was a dusty old box tucked away in the attic. Inside, he found an antique camera, beautifully crafted but worn with age. It was a curious piece, unlike any camera Michael had seen before. Intrigued, Michael decided to test the camera. He loaded it with film and began taking pictures around his house. He developed the film in his darkroom and was astonished by what he saw. The pictures weren't of his current surroundings. Instead, they depicted scenes from the future. In one photograph, Michael saw his neighbor's house engulfed in flames. Alarmed, he rushed over to warn them. "Your house is going to catch fire!" he shouted, waving the photograph. The neighbors stared at him, their expressions a mix of confusion and concern. "Are you feeling okay, Michael?" one of them asked, edging away from him. "Just check your wiring or something," Michael insisted, but they shook their heads, dismissing him as a lunatic. The following week, the neighbor's house caught fire due to a freak electrical fault, and the family barely escaped with their lives. Tragically, one of the children did not make it out. Michael was horrified. The camera's prediction had come true, and it seemed that his warning had not been enough to prevent the tragedy. As the days passed, Michael continued to use the camera, unable to resist its lure. Each set of photographs showed more tragic events: a car accident involving his best friend, a tree falling on the local park where children played, a massive storm destroying the town's main street. Desperate to change these outcomes, Michael intervened each time, warning those involved. His best friend, Tom, scoffed at Michael's warning about the car accident. "You're being paranoid," Tom said, laughing it off. A week later, Tom's car veered off the road, killing him instantly. Michael was devastated. It seemed that no matter what he did, the outcomes were inevitable. Next, Michael saw a photograph of a tree falling on the local park, right where children often played. He called the city to have the tree removed, but before they could act, a sudden storm caused the tree to fall, crushing a group of children who had taken shelter beneath it. The images haunted Michael, who felt increasingly powerless and guilty. One night, Michael developed a new set of photographs and froze in horror. The images showed a terrible accident at the local school, with children hurt and panicked parents. Determined to prevent it, Michael rushed to the school the next morning, frantically warning the principal and staff. They took his warning seriously and evacuated the school. But in the chaos, a stampede occurred, and several children were injured. 2 of them did not survive. The accident from the photograph had come true, not from an external threat, but from Michael's own intervention. Distraught, Michael returned home and threw the camera back into the dusty box, determined never to use it again. He believed that his meddling with fate had caused enough suffering. But that night, as he lay in bed, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He got up and went to his darkroom, drawn by an inexplicable urge. There, on his work table, was the camera. It seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, and a stack of photographs lay beside it. With trembling hands, Michael picked up the top photograph. It showed his own funeral, with mourners gathered around a grave. His parents, his friends, and even his neighbors were there, their faces etched with sorrow. The next photo showed the cause: Michael lying in his dark room, lifeless, with the camera by his side. Michael dropped the photographs, his heart pounding. He realized that the camera had not only shown him the future, but had manipulated him into causing the very tragedies he sought to prevent. And now, it was showing him his own end. Desperate to escape his fate, Michael grabbed the camera and ran outside. He made his way to the nearby river, intending to throw the cursed object into the water. But as he reached the riverbank, he slipped, and the camera flew from his hands, landing on the rocks with a shattering crash. As Michael lay on the ground, he felt a sharp pain in his chest and struggled to catch his breath. In his fading vision, he saw a shadowy figure approaching. It was the ghostly image of his uncle standing over him with a sad, knowing smile. "Why?" Michael gasped, his voice barely a whisper. "You should have never used it," the apparition replied, its voice echoing with an otherworldly resonance. "Now, the curse is yours." Michael's vision blurred, and he felt himself being pulled into the darkness. The world around him faded, and the last sound he heard was the faint click of a shutter. In the morning, Michael's body was found by the river, and the broken pieces of the camera were scattered around him. The townspeople mourned his loss, unaware of the sinister device that had caused so much pain. The camera's curse remained, its tragic legacy hidden among the fragments of shattered glass and twisted metal. That night, the dark room in Michael's house began to glow with an eerie light, and a new camera materialized on the work table, its lens gleaming malevolently. The curse had chosen a new host, and the cycle of tragedy would continue, claiming more lives in its wake.